Welcome to AHRK Encounter. I'm your host Melanie, and I'll be joining you along this AHRK path. We will continue our discussion on this week's topic, vulnerability. I'm excited to dive into a conversation about how our community impacts our vulnerability. Our guide today, Krista Chakmak, will take us on this journey through the lens of community, where we will encounter a special VIP. Now let's get you started on the AHRK path with this quick video.
The lifestyle path to better choices. It empowers us to live life to the fullest and paves the way for people like you and me to discover our unique purpose and passion. Choosing to walk the AHRK path invites transformation and growth in 5 key areas of life: leadership, communication, mindset, community, and lifestyle. As we dive into these lenses, they redirect our focus and guide us into a deeper understanding of where we're at today and where we're going tomorrow. This is AHRK Encounter. Welcome to the AHRK Path.
Welcome again to the AHRK Encounter, where we encounter life in a new lens and a new opportunity. And today we are going to look through the lens of community. Community is the people around you, but you're included. You can't talk about community and talk about them. It's not community then. Community is where you enter into a community of people and you are a part of them with unity. And so we are going to challenge some of that unity when it comes to the word vulnerability. And we recognize that not everybody wants vulnerability. In fact, some people look at vulnerability and they go, keep that over there. This is about structure. This is about organization. This is about my way or the highway. And they're not willing to let down their guard. Well, as we bring vulnerability and community together, it's different than a mindset, because in mindset, you're really just the individual going, I can choose this, I can overcome it. As it talks about lifestyle, we recognize that vulnerability is just almost like that habit of experience. So I'm setting it up to say, I think community and vulnerability is one of the most challenging places for you and I to encounter AHRK, because there's people watching and they're judging and they are going to tell you when you come up short. And that provides the opportunity for us to shine. So welcome again to an AHRK Encounter. My name's Casey. I'm your guide, and I'm going to walk with you and my favorite guest today. Let me welcome Krista Chakmak to us today. Thank you for joining us on an AHRK Encounter.
Yes, thank you for having me.
Are you feeling a little bit vulnerable?
A little bit.
A little bit. It's okay.
Yes. I live in this space, so of vulnerability. So.
You do, and that's why you're here.
Yes.
And really, every single one of our guests is here for a very special reason. They are a VIP. We believe that our guests are coming on here to be unarguable. They're not here to prove their point. They're not here to argue at all. They're here to share their values. They're unshakable because their life has been tried, it's tested, and their identity is emerging as something beautiful. And they're undeniable. They have a purpose, and their purpose is often aligned with transformation. And that brings them as a guest to the AHRK Encounter. So Krista, Let's start with this understanding of being unarguable and knowing your values.
Okay.
Talk to me about what are some values that guide you, that they're deep within you. How does that come out in the world?
Well, I would say definitely a strong value that I have is community, which we're talking about today. Having a strong community around me and my family is something that is very important to me. I've lived and created a life in this community, and that is a strong value. And I think that representing my truth and being honest and open is something that I value, although it's very hard to do that.
Yes.
I think it's important, and It
would be easier if we weren't under lights and cameras now, wouldn't it? I mean, we just kind of talk, it's like, because you and I have talked before.
Yes.
We've had conversations.
Yes.
You've been vulnerable.
Yes.
I think we've actually even shed tears.
Oh, of course.
And that's part of the reason why it was easy for me to say, hey, Krista, come in and share with people that vulnerability for your community.
Right.
Vulnerability with your community is so important to you.
Right.
And as you've done that so well, it's kind of platformed you in different ways, in different places, in different times.
Absolutely.
As I think about identity, it's things that people can touch.
Right.
It's that identity that, someone goes, oh, that's so and so.
Right.
You want to share anything about your identity?
Well, like, do you want some of my my background?
Are you a mom?
I'm a mom.
All right.
So I'm a mom. I have 2 boys. They are both.
It's the easiest place to start identity,
right? And that's something I value very much.
Yes.
I mean, this is my whole purpose. So I'm a mom of 2 young boys. They are in elementary school, although I'm now homeschooling, which is a whole nother. So I'm a teacher as well.
New identity role for you?
Yes. I am a wife, and I am active in this community. I would consider myself kind of an activist.
I was going to say, are you? Come on, pull that word out. You're an activist.
Yeah, I would
you
consider
have
myself
passion.
an activist. I feel like I'm a leader, and I think that I've been put in this role. I saw it at one point as a member of the school board for Benita Unified, and I then got into that position and it changed, and now I consider myself a leader in the community, trying to impact the district still. But I did resign from that position, and I pulled my kids from the district, and we're moving.
And this is all really, really raw and new.
Really raw.
So I'm letting you know that as Krista's kind of thinking through her words about being vulnerable, this isn't something like what 4 years ago. This wasn't maybe 4 months ago, hardly.
Yeah.
And so Krista's come on to say, look, I'm willing to be vulnerable. I'm willing to share that life needs to be lived out loud.
Yes.
And when you're passionate about something, being vulnerable about it is difficult.
Right. And being vulnerable, I have to say, has actually brought me to the best places in my life, where I don't know that I would have said that 2 years ago, but now the vulnerability that I share with the community has brought me to the best place I am today.
Love that you recognize that this path that you're on. 2 years ago, you're a different person today than you were 2 years ago.
100%.
And vulnerability today is producing something in you more beautiful than, I'm going to say, you maybe even could have imagined.
Yes.
And this is why we invite you onto the AHRK path, and we bring these encounters as moments in time to simply go take a snapshot. What's going on right now? Because the beauty is Krista's not going to be the same person in 2 years. So if you've been the same person for a really long time, and maybe that's a pride for you, that, look, I'm always the same, I haven't changed in 35, 40, 60 years, maybe it's time for you to go on an AHRK encounter and recognize that growth is available for you. And I'm just kind of setting this up to say, what is this AHRK experience? It's acknowledge, it's heal, it's restore, and it's kingdom. And it is places on your journey when you get an opportunity to make a choice. So let's enter into the first choice. It's acknowledgement. It's a choice of perception. Am I willing to look and see? There are things that are seen and there are things that are unseen. And when vulnerability is the topic, there's a lot more things that are unseen. So, Krista, you had no idea what to expect in what you were acknowledging about vulnerability. So if we go back 2 years and we bring it to today, what are some things that you saw and then you were able to articulate, but then they were gone in that sense, or things that you never saw, but then you just knew something was different?
Well, I think that when I was put in the position as a leader in the district, I had to make decisions and and my decisions were different than the other members or other people in our community. And I had to...
You had a minority voice.
Yes, I had a minority voice. Exactly. And I had to really hold my ground on that. And it was challenging because it was a minority and people didn't want to hear it, and people judged it, and it was important for me to stand my ground because it was something that I really was passionate about. And I had to open myself up to being criticized and judged, and that was really hard for me and uncomfortable because I'm a people pleaser and I want people to like me, and they didn't like me.
Which is where that unarguable concept comes and goes. How do I be true to my value, but share a point of view that is contrary to other people?
Right.
And what comes out is vulnerability.
Yes, and it ended up being really hard, but it brought me to where I am today, and I wouldn't change it for anything.
So let me ask, what did you acknowledge about the community that you said, it's time for me to stand up? Go back whatever year, you acknowledged something and it was a timing thing.
So you mean like to even step up to be a leader in the board?
Why step up and be a leader? You're going to get hacked.
Right.
Somebody's going to accuse you of being wrong.
Well,
why do it?
I didn't even consider that. Honestly, I never considered that I would be in the minority of a decision. Like, I felt like I had my hands in the community. I knew what was going on. I knew what this community wanted. I felt like they wanted me there to be the voice, which, looking back,
you had some rah.
Yes,
you can do it. You can do it.
I had a lot of that, and even when I had the minority voice in my position, my supporters were very quiet. So I had a lot of support.
They were quick to allow you to go out there.
Yes, everyone, and I still hear that, now that I've resigned. Oh, you were our voice. And I tell them, no, you're your voice. Now it's your turn to step up and be vulnerable.
That's a beautiful shift.
But people don't want to do that.
No, it's really hard.
I know, but if I could tell them, if you find your voice and you are vulnerable, people will, first you'll find your tribe, because I have found that.
Yes.
You'll find the people that will stand up with you.
And I'm gonna pause on that. You'll find your tribe. You'll find the people who has a voice with you.
Yes.
But you don't find that unless you put yourself and put your toes in the water and get in.
Absolutely.
And this is the vulnerability aspect of saying, some people live their entire lives thinking, well, maybe someday, well, I should. And we recognize here that you have a choice. Let's move down the process. But here's why I think people don't do it. Rejection.
Oh, yes.
Fear.
Yes, I lost many friends.
Oh, shame. Shame of failure.
Yes, I had all of that.
And so on the AHRK Encounter, we start with acknowledgement, but then there's this really essential second step, learning how to heal. Learning how to be resilient and get back up and recognize that I'm better, I'm stronger, I'm able because I came up short. So talk to me about a little bit of the journey of healing with vulnerability and community. You mentioned you were rejected by people that you didn't think would reject you.
Yes. I don't think that, I think that in this community, a lot of people loved supporting the idea of me, and I fit into what they thought I was going to represent. But when I really came out with my voice and held to my values, that was, I felt a level of rejection, and I did lose, well, I don't want to even say friends. I lost people around me that I thought were friends, but I've learned through being vulnerable who my friends are.
Yeah.
Personally and in, the community. I really have found my support and my true friends, and it's turned into something beautiful, but I had a lot of healing to do because my heart was broken big time, several times.
As we think about vulnerability, vulnerability ties us into what we love.
Yeah.
And if we're not going to be vulnerable, we're not going to be seen. We're not going to be connected to people at deep levels. But one author says that to love is to be broken. And you had so much love for the community that you chose to be willing to be broken.
Right.
And yet it still hurts when when that brokenness hits us, doesn't it?
Right.
And so I want to invite you, don't be afraid to be broken. The brokenness is an opportunity for us to really see what's on the inside and allow that to come out. And yet, don't be broken alone.
Yes, that
Tell me more.
I would definitely agree with that, and be open to meeting new people in your life through this. I had people reach out to me, and I've had connections with people that I wasn't expecting, and that has turned into other adventures and other opportunities that I feel like my leadership will grow from this. Even though I had to take a step back, I think that ultimately my leadership will come through in ways that I never imagined.
That was a beautiful setup for where I'm going next.
Great.
Well done. On this AHRK path, what we do is we hit restoration and we restore to more. We build, we invest, we grow, and we recognize that I have another choice. I want to progress. I'm not stuck, but if I don't grow from that place, I'm just kind of existing. And there's more in this life, and there's more for you and I to grow and to learn, and how we can lean into those things. I know you was one thing, you're now a teacher, you're homeschooling your kids. You took on this whole new, like, oh, I have to learn something.
Yes.
So as we go on this AHRK path, what we're doing is we're acknowledging, we're healing, we restore, and then often we do it again. And then we do it again. So let's camp out at this restoration concept and go, how does the community, taking it away from you, how does the community build and restore? It's not that our communities can't, but how have you seen it? What makes community function better?
I would say that community would function better, or it functions better with moving. Let's see.
That was hard. I know.
I know.
And here's what you touch community so often and so well. So it's not specific to the school.
Okay.
You touch community through your kids and their friends.
Right.
You touch community through your activism and a much broader audience. You touch community because we have hometown community.
Yeah.
You're in the parades. You're out there watching them when you're not in them.
Right.
So as you see community, what builds community?
I want to go back to being vulnerable. I mean,
that's a great answer, especially today.
But because if you don't, so meeting your neighbors, people don't do that very often. I think that building this community, you have to put yourself out there and be okay with being rejected, because the next person is going to love on you. And that love that you receive from that, neighbor is going to lead you to something even greater than what you just got rejected from.
I love that. So I'm going to put that into a challenge for anybody that's listening to this to say, how do I start practicing vulnerability in my community now? I'm going to go ask you to knock on 5 doors. Okay. Those could be to the left. They could be to the right. Maybe you don't have a door in the place you call home, but wherever you are, talk to 5 people. I mean, go to a local coffee house and pick out 5 tables and just walk up and say, hey, I just wanted to introduce myself and say, I share the coffee house with you. Come up with something better than that. But be vulnerable. And in that, you probably will be rejected. And it's that point that you get the chance to realize, oh, I felt something.
Yes.
Now, when you start feeling something, vulnerability can come and meet you in that place. And that's really where you're authentically going to discover who you are. What is your value? What do you want to talk about? And that leads us into a kingdom place, because in the kingdom place, I mean, you think about it, where the king has a kingdom and he throws a party and everybody goes, I want to come to the party, because it's a place of celebration. It's abundance. It's victory. It's success. And I call that the place where you choose your purpose. So walk me into some of the purpose. Like what are you going after? What do you want to see happen in this next 6 months and the next 6 years? I mean, your kids are still young.
Yeah, my kids are
So
young.
what are you modeling for them? That would be that bigger picture. What do you want them to come away from all these things?
I want them to come away thinking that their mom was a fighter and was willing to go against even ideas that I had. I don't know if that just to change course. That their mom was flexible to stay on a path to protect the values of our family and what was important to me, that I was willing to homeschool, which is crazy to me, but that I was willing to make sacrifices. And I was hurt often, and they see me cry. And that I have come out stronger, and that I will continue to fight for them and for all of the kids in our community.
I don't know that there's and I'll just limit it to mother, but there's not a guardian, there's not a parent out there that doesn't resonate with your desire to say, look, I want my kids to know I fought for them. And I was willing to do whatever, and that's a beautiful purpose. As I think about just how you've articulated that and you brought it in, you've recognized that it's okay to be tested. It's okay to be in a place of unknowingness. You were capturing some words that remind me of what I call living above the line, and you can look in the AHRK Encounter for that kind of stuff. But living above the line says you remain open, you remain curious, you remain creative. And what I heard you were saying is, even in the midst of this struggle, you were searching for, is there another way? Is there a way I can go forward? And that means sometimes your convictions are shifting.
Yes. And sometimes to go forward, I had to go back. Which
is very vulnerable. This is not easy. And we're not trying to make it easy. We're not trying to pretend and go, you know what, it makes just easy. Just get out there and do something, talk. But what it does require is the hope. It requires hope to make a difference. It requires a vision to believe that change is possible. And that really is where the AHRK Encounter meets you at. That there is hope. You are one decision away from a completely different life. Now, think about this. That could be a better life, or it could be the life that you go, I don't know how I got here. Krista, I celebrate with you today that you are a part of a completely different life today than you imagined you would have been a year ago.
100%.
And I celebrate with you that you're living it to the full, that you're having new experiences with your kids that you would have never imagined. And that your heart is healing.
Is healing, for sure.
And so you're on an AHRK path. And you're building and you're restoring. And we invite you to an AHRK path encounter. Know that it's for you. And so come back. And here's Melanie to tell you exactly how you can join us on a more regular basis.
Thank you, Krista, for being candid, vulnerable, and your authentic self. You've taught us that being vulnerable is being passionate. And if you'd like what you heard today, you can check out more at our website, www.arcpath.com. What are you waiting for? Follow us on social media at ARCPath. Check out the AHRK Path podcast featuring the talented Casey Cox and Bernard Bashira, available wherever you stream podcasts. For more content, download our free app, Circles Now, for course packages. Thank you for tuning in to AHRK Encounter, and we'll see you on the next one.